everybody, and I'm back with an SCP short story, which will segue into an SCP briefing. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Oh, and these stories can be a little creepy sometimes, so if you're not in the mood for that, maybe go see another video of some sort. But without further ado, let's get started. Naptime. Working at a daycare gives you a very strange view of children. I live in the South, so the stereotype of screaming children in Walmart isn't part of a redneck joke. It's literally just what happens when you go to Walmart. Without a ton of close family, those kids were for the longest time the only children I had any exposure to, so my views on them were somewhat negative. But my grad school told me the only financial aid I could get was an assistantship working at the on-campus daycare, so I was going to have a few experiences with them, whether I wanted to or not. And I have had many experiences with them. Life-altering and strange experiences that cast a great doubt in my mind as to whether the world is going to exist when these people become voters. But I digress. This is about one child in particular. I'll call him Thomas. Thomas was about 4 years old at the time this had happened, and he was a little special. I don't mean he was special needs, as the current euphemism puts it. I've met those kids. They're different. Some of you have kids who are just special. You don't realize it because your children are completely different people around you than they are around their friends. You're still convinced that your kids are going to grow up to be astronauts or scientists, but I knew within minutes of meeting them, at age 6, that they're going to be spending large parts of their adult lives performing some kind of service at truck stops. But I digress. Thomas was special. Thomas's thing was that he simply refused to sleep. Some of you are parents and are nodding your heads, the insomniacal nature of children being commonly understood. But it's a lot stranger than you think. Those of you with children have 1, 2, maybe 3 kids, all of different ages. During nap time with Thomas's group, I have 40 children, none of whom have any genetically based reason to obey me, none of whom I can punish in any meaningful way, all of whom have friends who will back whatever insanity they have in mind. During nap time, the room becomes a prison. I'm the warden. I have some experience with the behavior of children of this age. There are children who dislike sleeping. There are children who prefer not to sleep until they choose a time and place. But people who work at daycares become experts in swooping in and physically incapacitating children in the fastest possible time frame. And we're damn good at it. That's what nap time is, if you look at it clinically. Sensory deprivation, turning off the lights, playing music to drown out snoring, etc. Combined with hypnosis, rubbing their backs. Some kids fall asleep more easily than others, but if you put in the time, they all go out eventually. Except Thomas. Other kids who didn't sleep would just stare plaintively at the adults until they got embarrassed and walked away, trying again later. Thomas, though, was determined to fake sleep until you left, feeling satisfied at a job well done. As soon as you walked back, there he is, staring at you. Look, I know how to fake sleep, but I'm in my 20s. This kid is 4 years old, and he is a master at the craft. He knows just how much to snore, and when. He knows how to slow his breathing down to give off that sleeping demeanor. He knows how far he can open his eyelids to see if the coast is clear. And he knows how to do all of this without actually falling asleep. The other teachers and I talked about it. What the hell is going on with this kid that he's learned how to do this as young as he is? But I decided it was just too weird not to experiment with. I figure if you look at the kid bed for long enough, he'll keep his eyes closed, and eventually he sleeps. Has to work, right? So that's what I do at nap time. Everywhere I go in the room, I keep my eyes on the kid. He sees me looking, lays down, and closes his eyes. I sit across from him and stare. Nothing I do really requires a ton of attention, so I just keep my eyes on him wherever I go. And every few seconds, the same dance. Eyelids flutter. Eyelids raise. Eyes glance slowly upwards. Eyes meet mine. Eyes clamp shut. Pause. Eyelids flutter. This goes on for 20 minutes. I notice something weird about his breathing. He's losing his cool, I think, and figure I'm about to win this round. Then he starts crying. Quit looking, he wails. Quit looking, quit looking. Shit. Look, you may think that it's an asshole move to get into a staring contest with a 4-year-old. Let me just say that in my shoes, you might do the same thing. After a long talk with my supervisor and Thomas's parents, we agree that yes, Thomas's ability to pretend to sleep is just uncanny. But no, there would not be any further experimentation on his front, as it's not important enough to emotionally traumatize a preschooler over the subject. He had been seeing a therapist, and he kept mentioning nightmares about someone staring at him, constantly staring. My immediate thought was, how can a kid who doesn't sleep have nightmares? Nevertheless, I agreed to knock it the hell off, and the matter was dropped. Thank God I have a tolerant boss. A day or so ago, I walked in while they were doodling with crayons. I glanced over the table, seeing a bevy of wonderful, psychologically fascinating exhibits. Kids taller than one parent, kids being rained on, kids shooting various animals. Before I land on Thomas's, a window and a face. I asked another principal teacher in the room. She said all of his drawings were always the same. A window and a face. I saw something that looked like crayon on the other side of the sheet. I flipped it over. It keeps looking. It won't quit looking. Quit looking. SCP-965. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-965 is contained within a framed, ready-to-install window, henceforth referred to as SCP-95-1, composed of at least 6 panes of clear glass or similar material, measuring at least 15 centimeters by 30 centimeters. SCP-965-1 must in turn be kept within an environmentally controlled storage facility capable of withstanding significant seismic disturbances. SCP-965-1 should be inspected at least once per week to check for degradation of material. At all times, at least 2 similar framed windows must be present and within separate chambers. In additional padding and insulation, with no other window pane measuring greater than 14 centimeters wide or 29 centimeters tall between them and the current SCP-965-1. The lighting within the chamber containing SCP-965 must be a minimum of 130 candelas at any time personnel are within said chamber, except during research. While SCP-965 is currently contained within SCP-965-1, our inability to control its movement upon destruction of SCP-965-1 through means beyond proximity have prompted its elevation to Euclid status. Research into a more permanent means to contain SCP-965 is ongoing, and Individual experiments may be carried out by clearance level 1 personnel after approval by level 3 administration. Description: SCP-965 is a visual manifestation that occurs within framed windows. This manifestation takes the shape of the shadowed face of an apparently pale-skinned male that is looking through the window. The exact details shown vary, as does the direction of orientation as well as the age of the person. However, sufficient detail shows it to consistently be the same being at different points of its life, between the approximate ages of 10 and 55. Research into an individual matching SCP-965 has thus far proven inconclusive. SCP-965 will only appear when the relative lighting on the outside of the window falls below 5 candelas, regardless of lighting on the inside. Such terms are possible because the face will only appear in a fully assembled window frame, though it does not need to be currently installed. Thus far, SCP-965 has not shown any ability to intentionally move from one glass pane to another. Even within the same installation, it is only able to attain a new manifestation point upon the destruction of the current SCP-965-1, at which point its new habitat will be reclassified as SCP-965-1. The face is visible from the outside portion of SCP-965-1, but despite its two-dimensional nature, it is described as looking away into the room. Initial effects caused by SCP-965 are reports of unease, nervousness, and low-grade paranoia. These sensations will overcome anyone with visual range of the manifestation, even if obscured, such as by curtains. Based upon reports pertaining to residents of the house where SCP-965 was discovered encountering problems sleeping, experiments were conducted using D-Class personnel who were made to sleep in a chamber where SCP-965-1 was installed. An individual that is sleeping in any area visible to SCP-965 when it manifests will invariably have dreams of a disturbing nature, usually involving being chased, attacked, tormented, etc., though without any physical contact within the dream. With repeated incidents involving the same subject as few as 3 but never more than 10 dream cycles before onset, SCP-965 will begin manifesting with a more explicit smile than normal. After this point, the subject will begin complaining of heartburn or abdominal pain, and often begin to vomit blood or have blood in bodily wastes. This is caused by the victims suffering ulcers and low-grade hemorrhaging throughout varied locations in their gastrointestinal tract. The current hypothesis as to the cause of these afflictions is SCP-965's influence artificially accelerating the body's reactions to elevated stress and fear levels. Subjects who advanced to this stage have also reported continuing experiences of the facial manifestations in windows during dreams, as well as in peripheral visions while awake, even after being removed from the vicinity of SCP-965. Most suffer from low-grade but lasting feelings of paranoia, as well as sensations that they are being watched or followed. Whether this is, in the fact, some remnant influence left behind, or standard symptoms of distress followed by the traumatic intrusion of SCP-965 into their psyche, is under investigation. SCP-965 has produced no noise to date, and there have been no reported instances of SCP-965 animating in any way once it appears. However, it is capable of disappearing and reappearing at will in different poses. SCP-965 also shows signs of sentience, It has been observed to show disappointment if it manifests to an empty room, irritation or anger when manifesting before someone that had broken a prior SCP-965-1, and one instance of visible fear when in the presence of Agent Blank, who had earlier participated in its retrieval. Addendum Incident 965-1 on blank 19 blank. Routine testing involving the destruction of SCP-965-1 confirmed that while a multi-pane window may act as multiple holding zones, sufficient damage to the overall structure disqualifies it as a possible replacement. Unfortunately, SCP-965 instead manifested in an adjacent experimentation chamber's observational window. Due to the high standards of Foundation equipment, this required the window's complete removal and destruction via tactical breaching charge. SCP-965 was viewed with significantly hostile expressions for 1 month after the incident. Addendum Incident 965-2 on blank 2000 blank. Dr. L requested transfer away from the project involving SCP-965. She was reported as beginning to have visions of SCP-965 and to experience feelings of paranoia similar to those affected during sleep. Despite not having slept in the presence of SCP-965 herself, Dr. L was temporarily relieved of duties and assigned to psychological care. No other instances of SCP-965 affecting personnel who have not slept in its presence have been reported. And that's it, gang. Hope that wasn't too scary. Hope you're staying safe, washing your hands. Have a wonderful night. Good night.